too.
Couple more chairs? You don't want it to come back around to you.
No, I just choose one. I don't like.
Can we get at least one more chair?
Yeah.
I know this minute, you get it for the
Want it there? I'll move down.
There's not room for another one.
I usually don't like to be this close to the press. Well, okay.
Bleachers.
You might just over here.
There weren't any.
Oh, really?
Behind the door. Yeah, I just need to pee. Sitting in kindergarten class.
It's not tough for me, but it is for you. It's perfect for me.
Okay.
I'm gonna write myself.
Too much.
One more chair.
What a great crowd. Welcome. I think we can call the meeting to order. It's 5:30 something or other. Welcome to all of you tonight to the first March meeting of the Power City Council. As I always do, I welcome the media. Thank you for being here and reporting appropriately for on the proceedings of the council. I also will mention that there's two recordings going on. There's one right up on the bookshelf up there that's being recorded, that's recording us. And I believe that Mr. Sikora is also recording with his iPad, which I think appears on social media. I won't elaborate. Anyway, we welcome all of you. Just a couple of comments when we get to public input today. I want to remind you that we want to keep public input minutes or reports to like 3 minutes. And And the public input is really just informational. It may be in response to something that occurred in a previous council meeting that you want to set clear. But public input will not be debatable. In other words, the city council will not get into debate over statements made in public opinion. If the public input, if there's anything of substance, well, of course, there's always something of substance in public input. But if there's anything that does need response and requires council attention, it will appear on a subsequent city council agenda, and we'll take it up in an official sense. After public opinion, the council will go into a deliberation of the issues and agenda items that are on the agenda. And at that point, this becomes a meeting of the city council, and input from the council chambers. And again, I appreciate all of you being here. We will call on you if there's a specific reason to have you speak to any of the issues. Otherwise, if you do have something that you're compelled to say, just raise your hand. I'll call on you and I'll ask you what what your comment is. So we want to move these meetings along as quickly as possible, but of course we want transparency, and we want to hear from you as well. So with that, I'll do a call to order and ask for roll call.
Anderson, Hoffman, Abraham,
Here.
Elwell,
Here.
Hitler,
Here.
Greenfield.
Here. And does everyone have an agenda in front of them? Are there any changes to the agenda?
He made some amendments on that.
Okay. The closed council meeting has been canceled for this evening. That's number 5. And Pine Street realignment proposal is added. I would like to add one item that I will call, let's just plain call it cybersecurity. It's an issue that I had hoped to have a document to hand out tonight, but my computer's been acting up all day. That's why I got here 10, 15 minutes later than I normally do. But I will report on that verbally and come back with a report on it afterwards. But it's an issue that I will request council action on. So with that, are there any other changes to the agenda? Motion to approve. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
And support?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
But just a second, for your item here, because I know you were trying to get stuff printed out and everything beforehand, it would be nice to see some of these things in advance, if there's something that we're going to be reading through. I know that's a request you made yourself, council packets.
I have.
So, you know, it would be nice to get those at the time that we get the council packet with all the materials that get sent out, if at all possible.
Well, Kevin, I agree totally, and I've made that point from even long before I was seated as mayor and this council was seated. And I agree that all of the materials should be prepared beforehand, and the council given time to review them. The particular thing that I wasn't able to print out, I can read it from my computer, but I just simply, it would not print out from my computer. There's something with a connection there that didn't work. So if you want to put that off, I can read it at the next council meeting, and meanwhile I can email it to Linda and she can forward it to the council.
I mean, is it something that's like a paragraph or two, or is it 10 pages long?
Well, it's several pages long, and it's in reply to the page and a half that I received from you at the last meeting.
Sure. Okay.
So I can read it.
What I heard was cybersecurity. Is this the same item?
Well, what I just mentioned to you, Kevin, I said the response to the page and a half of issues that you brought up at the last meeting, and I was to report on them, which I have done in writing.
Okay, I guess I'm just a little confused here.
And I would have sent those out earlier, but I was having trouble both with my computer and with connection with my printer.
Okay.
So, when we get to that item, Linda, which item is that on here again?
Which one are you talking to?
The one that Kevin just brought up, the grievance policy. Is it the grievance policy or is it the?
No, that'd be number 4. So there is no.
Oh, okay.
cyber-
The mere. Well, there you use that term again. Misconduct. There is no.
There's no number. There's no cybersecurity, or there are 2 different things that you have.
The
Okay,
one
so-
that I wanted to add was on cybersecurity.
Okay, that's what I
And
thought.
I was not able to print that out, and so I would give that report verbally. But I think it's important enough to bring up to the council for review. And I'll follow up with a report to you.
I think Kevin was talking about the cybersecurity, not
Okay.
number 4.
Yeah, he switched. So, okay,
Yeah.
so, the cybersecurity is an issue that's come up that I feel is important for the council to talk about.
Okay,
And it's a request that I'm going to make.
okay.
That's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is a response to Kevin, which is number 4 on the agenda, the mayor investigation. And I do have a report that I've written, but I was not able to get it printed out. And I had planned, that's the one that I just talked
Yeah,
about.
that's what I thought you were tabling to the next meeting. I understood you were adding the cybersecurity to tonight.
I am.
Okay, that I was fine. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
I thought the thing that you were printing out was related to that. That's what I was.
No.
I don't think there was ever a delineation between
Okay.
cybersecurity to the.
There was a switch in there, but and let me make it clear to everybody. There's 2 issues. One, I'm adding to the agenda an issue of cybersecurity. Okay, that's number 1. And if you want to make that 10.9, that's fine with me. And the second issue is the one that you and I just talked about in the other office, and that's my response to the document that I was given by Kevin, which was read in public at the last meeting, and I was requested that I give a written response, which I've done. And I'll make this point right now. The things that were brought up in Kevin's comments delved into issues that were in a closed meeting. And therefore, in the report that I wrote, I had to answer the questions that and issues that Kevin brought up. However, for the sake of not bringing up issues that may be private or non-public, I redacted certain sentences and paragraphs from that report, and if I read the report, I would not read those redacted sentences. So that's the second issue. Is that clear? Okay. So on that, I can do one of 2 things. You can table it if that's what you want, or I can read what I have, but I'm not willing to read the portions that may later be brought to the council as discussing issues that have been discussed in a closed meeting, even though they actually have been brought forth in other ways. I just simply don't want to do it. So I would answer the essence of the questions that Kevin brought forth, all of those issues, but I would leave out certain portions. If you want to think about that until we get to number 4, we can discuss that further at that time. Did I make that clear? Okay. I might also apologize. I hope I'm talking loud enough. I'm trying to project my voice because that has been an issue. I've also going into about the 4th week of this, whatever this crud is that affects the voice. I have witnesses here that I've been taking medication. If you can't hear me, let me know and I'll try to project louder. My voice is a little weak. So back to the agenda. There's been a motion to accept, and I think we're still, you support it.
We had moved and supported
Okay.
after we added the cybersecurity.
Yeah,
Are we not
okay.
correct? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let me do this over again. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there support?
Support?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda accepted as modified. Want to welcome Jerry Maslowski here, who is going to talk about the Tower Deer Hunt presentation. Deer hunt?
Jeremy Maslowski. So
Did I say Jeremy?
Yeah.
Or
Right now
it
it's
said
Jerry. Jerry,
so,
but close enough.
I read minutes off.
So Jeremy Maslowski, I'm the
Welcome.
assistant product manager here in Tower. I was here for 3 years. Was gone for a year after my term was done, and now I'm back on another 3-year term. And I've been kind of working in coordination with the city to help administer the deer hunt that's gone on here since 2011. So I think this is the 8th year that we've had an active deer hunt within the city limits on the city of Tower property and the township of Briding. So I'll just kind of run through for some people that are not familiar with it, or why the city, this is DNR to make recommendations, but this all came through the city council and them agreeing that they determined that hunt was important. Number one thing is public safety. That's the ultimate goal of having an urban hunt, and this is using both archery equipment and muzzleloader. We've never had an accident. It's been extremely successful and safe. Number 2 goal is reducing our antlerless deer population within town, since they're the ones that are doing the reproduction and keeping the population going to town. Number 3, reducing ornamental tree, garden, and shrub damage. Anyone with plants or a garden in town know that the deer will hit them pretty hard if you don't have it well fenced off. That's definitely been an area of concern, and I've received quite a few calls again this fall and people wanting us to do things, but we got to use the hunters. We can't just come in and trap the deer and move them. Hunters are our way of controlling deer within town. Reducing automobile collisions, and I know there's been multiple outgoes. Briding in Sudan, right on 169, always been a problem area. Reducing disease risks, if you're familiar with chronic wasting disease, and the new positive that was found down by Merrifield, down by Brainerd, that's getting closer to our backyard, so that's a disease usually spread by concentrations of deer that are pretty close together, and we definitely have that here in town in the winter months. And then the last goal is modifying deer behavior, keeping them on their toes and keeping them moved around instead of just sitting in one spot all winter long. So there's 2 different hunts that go on in town. There's a muzzleloader hunt and an archery hunt. Muzzleloader, we use 20 hunters, archery is 10. This last year they both had a bag limit of 5. Rarely do people take that many deer, but we at least give people the opportunity to be able to harvest that many antlerless deer. Those hunts both start on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and this year was the 24th of November. Muzzleloader hunt corresponds with the statewide muzzleloader hunt, so it ended on Sunday, December 9th, so it's a 2-week window. And the archery hunt runs until the end of the archery season in Minnesota, so the 31st of December. So just kind of running through some of the results of those hunts. The City of Tower archery hunt, which is also Briding, that they had a harvest of 10 total deer, 1 adult male, 4 fawns, and then they had 5 female adults. And then Sudan Underground Mine, they also had a hunt at the same time for muzzleloader. That one took a total of 10 deer for just the state park for muzzleloader. And then the City of Tower muzzleloader hunt, which is just on the City of Tower Briding property, again took a total of 9 deer, 3 buck fawns, and the rest were all female. So overall we ended up taking about 90% antlerless, which is excellent. That's what the goal of the hunt is, taking antlerless deer instead of adult males, which don't do the reproducing. This year I also sent out a survey after the hunt to all of our participants, just kind of gauging what their thoughts are on the hunt, how many days they're hunting, total number of hours, whether they're hunting private or public land. I didn't have real good success on getting surveys back. I got maybe a third of them. Overall, people that were successful and seen a lot of deer had positive feedback for us. I had from one person that hunted, they had made a recommendation, and this is something that the city council can talk about, and if they want DNRs, we can help give advice, but this person had mentioned that they'd love to see the timber on the northeast side of the cemetery opened up as part of the hunt, whether or not it's for archery or muzzleloader or one or both. If you've ever driven by the cemetery in the fall or early winter, you know how many deer that are piled in that area, and that's definitely an area of concern, and that's where they're going to hold up, I guess. So that's something for the city council to kind of look at, and I unfortunately forgot to bring a map tonight to kind of point exactly out where that's at, but if that's something that the city would be agreeable, we can easily tweak the map and encompass that as part of the city hunt as well. McKinley Park Acres is an area up along Lake Vermilion that's not part of the hunt. The residents on that point didn't want to hunt up in that part of the city, so that's been excluded. 2 years ago, we circled out an area around Golden Horizons, now the Vermilion Senior Living Center, that they had issues with hunters around there, so we put kind of a protected area around there so people aren't allowed to hunt within that as well, just as a little safety buffer. Otherwise, the rest of our comments were pretty positive. They had gotten back. People were pretty happy with the way the hunt goes. Most of them are the same people every single year that apply, and mostly folks that live right in town or maybe as far as away as Ely. So just kind of summarizing the comments from those, we had pretty moderate to the average or so harvest in DNR's eyes, I guess. I think the biggest thing is that Lake Vermilion throws up relatively early this year in late November, and that's where a lot of these deer come from. They come off of the islands in the north shore of Lake Vermilion, and that's when they really come into town. Most of the rest of the deer around here are just kind of scattered about, and most of these are more migratory type deer. Overall, it seems like the numbers have decreased over the 8 or 7 years of the hunt, which is kind of the big goal of the hunt. So we're kind of doing what we're supposed to, and if we stop doing it, say the city council doesn't want to have the deer hunt anymore, you're definitely going to see the numbers shoot right back up. The deer know that they're safe here. They've got gardens and plants and apple trees to munch on. So we suggest that the city agrees to keep the hunt going, and know that we're doing a favor to all of its residents by helping out. One other concern that we've had, and we've made it known to both Food and Fuel and the Y stores, that we've noticed that these hunts have a separate deer permit area number when they would register a deer that they harvested, and we think a lot of people still use permit area 177, which is the bigger statewide permit area right here, so we really make sure that the gas stations know when people register that. Make sure to ask people during these seasons if they were hunting in the Tower City hunt or if they were hunting outside of the city limits, because without those we aren't able to track the harvest, and we can't really make recommendations as far as what should we allow people to harvest the following year. So registration is really important in deciphering whether they were the city hunt or if they're just hunting elsewhere. And then just some recommendations for this next year. We suggest that the city is agreeable to doing the hunt again next year and keeping the pressure on the herd. I've taken multiple damage complaints. One was a woman that lived right on the corner, turned towards Hoodoo Point. She had all of her apple trees completely destroyed this fall, and she wanted me to come and take all the deer away. And I said, you come to the city council meeting and let people know that you're not happy with the deer population. But I've taken, I think, 2 other calls of people that are concerned and had damage to their property, and hunting is our way of controlling them. Let's see. had gotten a call also from Demetrius Bray, who's the new manager over at the Vermillion Senior Living Center, and unfortunately they've changed management every single year. They had a new manager there now, a new corporation, and we've really struggled with them on putting, they like to feed deer out there, and I've worked with them in the past to get them to not feed till after the deer hunt, to keep the deer moving about. Well, now they're coming to us looking for us to buy them deer corn to feed the deer. And I'm not going to do that, we're not agreeable to that, but this is when it pops up again on, you know, the city council can talk about. Hoyt Lakes and other cities around have done feeding bans and said no deer feeding allowed at all. That's something that can be tabled and talked about. I do have a handout that just talks about the negative impacts of deer feeding, and I'll just leave it for you guys to take a glance at anyways. But I guess it's just always an area of contention. We have the people that like to feed the deer and see them, and then the other people that don't like them in their gardens and they're wrecking the trees and rubbing up against the house. And just a topic that should probably be brought back up, and with council members changing, people's ideas and perceptions change, so just to keep it on people's radar. And then the final thing is before I had left, we were going to try to transition this administration of this hunt over to the city to be able to take on, and then I left and my supervisor just kind of took it back over, but we'd still like to completely hand it over to the city. It's relatively easy. You do a drawing in the fall to pick what hunters are in the hunt, and you send out a letter. That's really about all it is. You don't really field many calls. The hunt pretty much runs itself. But that's something I like to work with, whether it's Linda or someone with the city, to be able to say, here we go, I'm here to help answer questions or tweak a map or something like that, but just to get it off of our plates. We're down another staff member here that we're not getting back to DNR, so we're down to just technically 2.5 instead of 3.5 staff members at a tower. And everyone's time is precious and we're all busy, so all of the other cities around Cook, Hoyt Lakes, Aurora hasn't got their hunt going, but pretty much all other cities, they run their hunts themselves and they don't have DNR administering them. The only reason that we were involved was because this was the first city hunt in northern Minnesota, so we kind of helped lead the way and kind of take the bull by the horns to teach everyone how to do it. And we figure after 8 years, I think it's time to hand the reins off and say, all right, either you guys take it on or that's about it. So something else to discuss, and I can come to another meeting too to talk about it further, or maybe help transfer things over. I'm more than willing to help out with that. And then on that topic too, I'm just having an orientation next year. The first year of the hunt, we had a hunt orientation with the 15 or 20 hunters to just talk about ethics and no trespassing and asking for permission. And I think that kind of gets lost after so many years. We get new hunters, so I just think just having that as a requirement next year again. So whether it's us or the city kind of administering it, that'd be something that we'll want to roll back in next fall before the hunt starts, and having an orientation, just a 1 hour meeting, whether it's at our office or up here somewhere, just to have a map out, answer questions, have a conservation officer that talk about just ethics and tagging and kind of the basics. Besides that, does anyone have any questions?
If the city, I understand that you're looking for a decision as to whether the city would take this off the hands of the DNR. So the orientation presentation that you just talked about, that would still be done by DNR?
Correct, yeah, that would be, the city could help some of the administration or admin type paper pushing and stuff, but for the logistical type questions and the law questions, we definitely have a warden and myself or Tom Rush, my supervisor, that would be here, and that's how we do it the same way at Hoyt Lakes and Cook. We always have a wildlife staff there at the meeting to help just to keep it rolling along. And it's nothing real formal, it's pretty informal evening, just a 1 hour.
So then, as I understand it, there's 2 questions that you have. Number one, are you looking for a resolution or a consensus from the city that we go ahead with the hunt this year?
Yeah, I think if if we can do it tonight, just a yay or a nay on, yes, we should have it in 2019, and then whether or not we'd be agreeable to taking over the administration of it. Like I said, it's not a big time commitment, and I'm more than happy to sit down, and I know.
We already did that. We already agreed to take it
Oh,
over.
yeah,
But I
the 2
think
years
that-
ago, and then Tom kind of took it back when I
Yeah.
left because there was some confusion, so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's still capiche. I'm more than happy to come in after and sit down and hand over the documents, like
Yeah,
I
we were
said.
kind of wondering what happened to
Yeah.
you, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
now we know.
my
yeah.
current position was done, so there was some confusion in our office, and
Since,
thought-
excuse me, since this was a public presentation to the chamber audience as well, I'd open this up if anyone has a comment or a question.
yeah, back there.
Pertaining to the airport, I'd like to see you keep continuing the hunt because we're always dealing with airplanes and deer coming through there and stuff, so.
And you guys, I think we've issued a shooting permit for the airport too, correct?
Yes.
For the,
That should come through St. Paul, which pretty much allows
seagulls
it,
and the seagulls and the geese, but
not
not
for
the deer.
deer.
Not for
Okay.
deer.
And that's something I know that can be added if that's an area
Well,
of concern.
I think if you just keep on with the hunt that you're doing here with city council, I think we're fine. with
Okay,
that, so.
yep. Perfect. Yep.
I'd just like to point out that you missed one, and about an hour ago, it was 10 feet in front of my picture window, about a half block that way. So next year, if you could kind of help me out on that one, I appreciate it.
Unfortunately, me as a DNR employee can't hunt. We have to pass it along to our hunters.
But
And I know there's plenty around.
in all seriousness, part of why I was there is because I have a bird feeder in my front yard, but for the city council, I've been feeding birds for close to 30 years, and I did not have a problem with the urban deer herd until neighbors just in the surrounding area started specifically feeding deer. So I hope in the future you'll take up that issue of feeding deer. I know there are enforcement issues with it, but haven't been done other places.
Okay, good comments, both. Are there any other discussion or questions, comments? So then, the first question would be to entertain a resolution to go ahead with the deer hunt in the time frame that you decide.
We would keep the dates as the same, so it would start, both the archery and muzzleloader hunt would both start Saturday after Thanksgiving, usually about the 23rd or 24th.
And Linda, the lottery, and I guess, Terry, you also mentioned the lottery has been done by us in the past, so that that's procedure that's well understood and.
That's, you did do that one this fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe just a refresher.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's,
Do you get more hunters than, there's X amount of
It's
hunters, or?
not many, like, if we're have a handful of people over, but some years it's even, don't even fill all the slots.
That was what it was
How
last.
many slots are there?
So, for the muzzleloader hunt was 20, and for the archery was 10, and I think muzzleloader didn't fill up all of them. And we handed off, the muzzleloader hunt, we had the city, that was what the city was gonna administer, and the reason that we as DNR would still administer the archery hunt, which is Hunt 988, just the 10 hunters, is because it also includes the state park property. So we just figured, logistically, we don't want the city to have to worry about managing or picking other things with the state park, so essentially just picking up with one hunt, 20 hunters.
Just curious, I didn't, you may have mentioned, I didn't catch it though. The meat, what you produce from the hunt, where does that go? Does it go to
Those are hunters, they get to keep, just like the statewide deer hunt, they go and purchase an over-the-counter deer license, they have to be selected for the lottery to be able to purchase those antlerless tags.
Mhm.
So they can, some guys that I've talked to, they'll go and buy all 5 antlerless tags before the season, preparing and assuming they're gonna shoot 5, and some will just buy one, go out, shoot an antlerless deer, go to the Y store food, you'll buy another one, they'll just keep going back and forth. Yeah, they shoot it, tag it, register it, and then it's, they can keep it for themselves, or there's a donation program through the DNR, they can donate it, or maybe there's a elderly person down the street that maybe is widowed that wants deer meat or something, and they're free to do whatever they want with it.
Okay, moving on then, if there's no objection, I think that we can have a motion for both questions. Number one, do we have the deer hunt? Number two, is it administered by the city? Is there a motion to that effect?
I don't think you have to read the motion, but it's something.
We were, that was 2 years ago or a year
Just
ago.
for a motion for, I'll make a motion that we continue the hunt.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mine was an aye. Okay, good presentation, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Okay, so number 4, what's your pleasure regarding the mayor misconduct investigation? Do you want to put that off until I have a printed copy for everyone, or?
I guess I would like to have a present
I would like to as well, just for clarity.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you read so fast, it's hard to, any of us, you know.
I read slow. That's okay.
You don't got ringing in yours like
That's fine with me. Is there a motion to table it?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 I abstain just for sake of order. So the motion passed. Number 5, the closed meeting has been lined out and will come at a future meeting. So we're going to go to number 6, approved minutes from previous meetings, and we have 2 previous meetings to approve. The first one is February 11th, 2019, regular meeting of the City Council. I'll just make a comment that Mayor Kringsted dissented in the motion regarding misconduct allegations for obvious reasons. The motion to accept the minutes, in both cases, I as mayor dissented approval only because we did not have the minutes in time to review them appropriately and properly before the meeting, and so there was really no way to judge whether there was any errors or not. And I just want to make that point. That's the reason I dissented, not necessarily because there was something wrong with the minutes. And Linda, I appreciate the minutes getting out earlier. That's a huge help to us to be able to review them a week before, or 2 or several weeks before we actually have to approve them. So I appreciate that a great deal. Is there a motion to accept the February 11th minutes? So is there a support?
Support.
Any discussion or other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. The second set of minutes are from the regularly scheduled meeting, February 25th, 2019. I have the same comments that I made earlier. Has everyone had time to review those minutes? Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there support?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of approval of the February 25th, 2019 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We have public input. Does anyone have public input for this evening? Richard?
I wrote this down so I make sure I covered everything.
Okay.
I've attended the last 4 city council meetings in Tower and I can say that I'm concerned about the hostile environment on the council. It appears to me that the main reason for this animosity is the accusations launched by Councilor Kevin Fitton. At the latest February 25th meeting, Mr. Fitton said he was tired of the dragging out of the complaints against Mayor Kringsted. However, for 3 of those meetings in a row, it was upon Fitton's insistence that the meetings be closed to the public. This was what caused the extended public grievance. After finding out a closed meeting was not correct procedure, Fitton then wanted an investigation. And when that failed, asked for mediation. All of this was unnecessary. Fitton stated that the mayor of Tower spent $150 of city funds on League of City newly elected officials conference and had not notified the city clerk. After the mayor was made aware of this, he has gone through the correct channels. If Mr. Fitton had just talked to the mayor ahead of time, he would have discovered this as a non-issue. The councilman then complained that information about a closed meeting was, quote, by some means, unquote, made public. This statement was not only vague, but it implied that the mayor shared the information. Without proof, this assumption should not be made or discussed at the meeting. Kevin could have resolved the rift by simply sitting down at Orland and discussing these complaints. So let's move forward to build a positive community that works together. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Marshall?
I also wrote my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to respond to the false allegations raised by Kevin Fitton, Linda Keith, and Eric Stu that Mr. Kringstead released private data from a recent closed meeting that examined allegations of misconduct. Had Mr. Kringstead done what these 3 individuals allege, which I know for a fact he did not, the mayor would have acted in violation of state law. In other words, it's a serious charge to make, particularly on nothing more than supposition. All 3 made their false claims without having asked either Mr. Kringstead or myself for an explanation. Had they done so, they would have learned that this allegation is entirely false. I have been aware for more than 6 months that city officials falsified my term on TDEP in order to remove me from that authority in retaliation for critical reporting and editorials. Mr. Fitton confirmed that motivation in his own comments on January 28th. This council should now be fully aware that my removal from TDEP was done in violation of state law, and given the falsification of records involved was very possibly a criminal act that this council has an obligation to take seriously. Shortly after his election, Mr. Kringstead requested a copy of the city's roster of committee and commission terms from the clerk treasurer. After reviewing it, he informed me that it showed my term on TDA had expired in 2017. Mr. Kringstead and I had previously discussed my removal from TDA, and he wondered if perhaps my term had expired as some city officials had tried to claim at the time. I showed in the minutes from the 2017 reorganization, which clearly showed my term continuing through the end of 2019. It was clear evidence of the falsification of official city records, and both Mr. Kringstead and I independently confirmed through comparing city minutes with the roster that the falsifications went well beyond TDA. The fact that I was aware of these falsifications months in advance of my reporting on them, and months in advance of any closed session of the council that might have addressed them, is easily and abundantly documented. Mr. Fitton and Mr. Skoog would have quickly uncovered this had they had an interest in learning the facts. That this entire falsehood has become the basis for a meritless grievance by the clerk treasurer is even more troubling. I attended last week's meeting of the grievance committee and was shocked by what I witnessed. Fortunately, Mr. Abrahamson prevailed upon the committee to refrain from immediate action, since it appeared that Mr. Altenberg and Brooke Anderson were ready to uphold the grievance without asking so much as a question. The very fact that Mr. Altenberg, who has filed his own frivolous action against the mayor, would even be allowed to vote on this grievance is astonishing in itself. As recently as December, Mr. Altenberg accused Mr. Kringstead and myself of corruption in a public meeting as part of an unhinged rant. Such a conflict would never be allowed in any kind of judicial proceeding because of the obvious bias that Mr. Altenberg has demonstrated. This council should at a minimum appoint an unbiased individual to serve in Mr. Altenberg's place. What's more, given the documented facts of this case, which I am more than willing to make available to the city, the grievance should be immediately dismissed with prejudice. It's a sham and nothing more.
Thank you, Marshall. Hopefully, these issues will be put to bed soon, and we can go on with the normal city business of progressing and and having, well, progressive economic development and new development in general in the city of Tower. Steve, did you have?
Yeah, well, I agree 100% with that, and I didn't write anything down, but I just wanted to comment on the original complaint against you, because I'm puzzled by why you, Kevin, saw that that had enough merit in it to bring it forward. As I understand, what happened was that Orland was alleged to have said that Steve was a sexist, and that was communicated to you, and you brought the complaint forward. I can understand why Steve would be offended if he thought that comment was made. I don't understand why that would be city's business, both because the comment was made as a private citizen in a private meeting, but also because I fail to see how that could create an adverse working environment or a hostile work environment. Because being a sexist is not a fireable offense. And nobody that I know said that Orland said he's a sexist, therefore we're going to take some action against him. Being a sexist could be a fireable offense if it has to do with harassment, abuse, discrimination, or assault. But normally when someone says someone is sexist, they're talking about they don't have an equal division of the duties in home. One spouse doesn't do as much parenting than the other, as much cooking. Believes that there's, men should earn more than women, or that little boys should be dressed in blue and little girls dressed in pink. None of these are fireable offenses, but they all fit the definition of sexist. So I just don't see why that complaint had enough merit to bring it forward. And following up on what Marshall said about Steve perhaps having a vendetta, Steve, right out there, when the first meeting that I attended, where the complaint was brought forward, you said to me at the close of our conversation, because I confronted you on your complaint, and you said, the mayor is going down, we're going to get rid of him. Now I emphasize the we. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public input?
There is. That last comment is completely, you can say that, I never said that. And we were talking as two citizens when we were talking, because this was after the meeting. But I never said anything like that. That is ridiculous. So to just stand here and publicly say stuff like that is, do you have any evidence of that? I mean, we can throw accusations like that all around all day long. You really should be prepared to prove something like that if you're going to state it in a public meeting.
I feel like I could respond to that. I think the people that know me know that I would not make up something like that. I also contemporaneously relayed the facts of that conversation and those specific 2 sentences you said to people right after the meeting. So if I was thinking to make up something like that, I sure did pre-plan it. And again, I guess I'll put my word against your word at times. I'm sorry it's come to this, because you clearly said that, and now you're lying to the council.
No, Steve, that's come far enough. Yeah, we need to move on. But,
you in fact accused me of lying, so thank you.
Yeah. As I said, I don't want to create debate during public input. That's not the purpose for it. But I appreciate people standing up and giving their thoughts and opinions. You have a right to do so. If there's no other public opinion, we will move on to reports from officers, engineers, commissions, and committees. SEH engineering report, Jason.
You should have your report in our packets. I don't believe I have anything to add at this time. Open to questions. We have a couple items in here that are part of the new business as well.
It looked like age 35. Sorry about that. Okay. Does anyone have any questions here? I haven't had a chance to read through this. I am curious though. I'm not in the loop any longer, but I'm curious if you can say something as to the final plat registration with the county.
There's an update right here under plats, under the harbor. There was a meeting between SCH and the county on the 20th, agreed upon the final changes of the plat. It has been resubmitted for approval. There are 3 items we're working with Linda for obtaining, and that will need to be provided to the county prior to the plat being signed. And that's we have here information on the vacated DNR easement, the verification letter from the Department of Administration for the change in city limits, and letters from the lenders.
What is the actual timeline? SCH met with St. Louis County on February 20th and agreed on regional final changes. What information are you still waiting on?
We've resubmitted the plat, so it's in the county's hands for review. So it can vary. It's gone through the review once already, and hopefully sooner than later we'll receive it. It is an extremely complex plat, and I think the county surveyor's office will tell you that. And but I think we can follow up for a timeline of when they'll respond.
Just a question? The 3 items that we need to provide are what again?
It's a vacation of the easement by the DNR, the one that went north-south.
You have that on there somewhere?
No, but I know what they are. The other 2 are statements from Franson regarding the loan that's on the charter school,
Okay.
and the loan that is on the new Lampa building.
And those are questions that you're replying to?
Yep.
Okay. And those will be answered when?
I'm waiting on the DNR and the state for both of them. I'm gonna, I just want to do one with West Franson. I don't know what their time frames are. The DNR one we've been waiting for quite a while, so.
Would you mind getting answers from those entities and just pass that on to the council, what the timeline is? And I might mention that I'm concerned about that from the city council, the city's point of view, and the mayor's point of view. It's a project that has been receiving a lot of visibility, of course, for a long time. And I want to make sure that we do our due diligence from the city side to make sure that there is no delay coming from us. There's been a lot of this with the county and SCH and waiting for information. So we'd like to move that along as quickly as possible. We still get asked about it quite frequently. Are there any other questions for Jason regarding the SCH report? Okay. I believe that it's customary to approve all of the reports at the same time. So we'll move on to the ambulance director report.
Nothing out of the ordinary to report there. February was a little busier than usual. We had a lot of 911 medical calls in February, more than we would have expected, but that's the way it is.
Okay. Those of you who were here, and certainly the city council recalls that that at the last meeting I requested that we have a walkthrough of the ambulance and fire department, and Steve very willingly and professionally did that. Councilor Rachel and I spent 45 minutes, an hour with you, Steve. Good presentation. I certainly have a better understanding of some of the space challenges and the other things that you have, and I have no question about the level of expertise that you lend to the city with your long experience. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. On the ambulance director report, can you tell us when the ambulance that's currently under order, what's the timeline there? When will that be delivered?
I checked up on that actually last week, just because I was curious myself. The timeline is gonna get stretched out longer. The chassis is just being built. That's a GM thing. There was shortage on axles, and I don't know what that, because I had them call to check to see when it was actually gonna be delivered, because it was ordered towards the end of February, so I was kind of expecting it would have been delivered to the four-wheel drive office by now. So, then it will be delivered. Unfortunately, the people that put on the four-wheel drive are also extremely booked up. They may not get to getting it on until June, which means then it would be delivered to the actual ambulance manufacturer and take approximately 2 months to build the ambulance. So that's the timeline we're currently looking at.
Okay. My next question, I probably should direct it both to Linda and to your clerk treasurer and you. What is the schedule of payment for the ambulance?
So when the chassis is done, GM will send the bill to the ambulance builder and they will forward that to us. And then the city would pay for the chassis. And then when the four-wheel drive is done, that bill would get sent to the city and then be paid. And then the ambulance would get built. It would get inspected ahead of time. We would finish it up, and then it would be delivered or picked up, and they would send the bill for the balance to the city.
Okay. Was there a deposit? No deposit on this at all. So the full. What's the full price of the ambulance?
It was 49 or something, because I can't remember what those changes were.
249.
249. 49. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's not all for the ambulance, that I should say, because we had the new cot put in it, so it will come with that. That's not part of the ambulance. That 19,000 is the ambulance pays for that. It was included in that price.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. And Steve Altenberg, Fire Chief report.
Nothing exciting in February in fire. Just one snowmobile accident that we assisted with, which is pretty good for us. There was lots of snowmobile accidents this winter given the good conditions, but in our coverage area, only one so far.
Okay, good. Are there any questions for the ambulance director, fire chief? Okay. Moving on to the police report. Jason, will you be doing the report?
I'm here.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the report. I don't see them. February's slow. It was cold. Most of the roads have been ice most of the time, so no one's speeding. Citations are down. People have been staying in the house. They're not out doing bad things, so everything's quiet.
Good for us.
Yep.
Good for us. I'll remind you that I think I mentioned this to both you and Dan, that we're going to want, especially the newest council members are going to want a walkthrough. I was there briefly and walked through with Dan, and that was about 10 minutes, but I didn't. I came unannounced and I didn't have a lot of questions ready. So we'll come back to you on that. As I said, the tour that we had with the ambulance director, fire chief, was very helpful, and I'm sure would be for conversation with you as well. Does anyone have any questions for Jason? Okay, for TITA, 8.5.
They haven't met, but they plan to meet on 4/4.
Okay, on Thursday, in April. Yes. Okay, so other than that, no report? Okay. Airport Commission report.
I don't think we met, or yeah, we did meet since the last meeting.
I guess currently we're working on the handicap guidelines for that log building down there, 80 building down there, and trying to get that going. We did start on it this summer with Trekkie B, the carpenter, put a ramp in there, so we're working guidelines for that way. We also been meeting on our storage building for the snow blower, currently looking at pricing and working with SCH on that. Just want to remind everybody, first week in May, we're going to have Rick's Tree Service coming in, and we'll be working on those Norway trees by the beach there. We're trying to cut some of the tops off up there. We're trying to make it where it's presentable and not just flat across there. So that'll be going on in first week in May there. So
They're in that light path
yeah,
again.
yes.
Weren't they trimmed that one time in the past too?
Well, and that's what we've got, some state representatives
Yeah.
coming in to tell us how low we can go rather than cutting them all the way down, but, so they're working there. And that's funded already, right, Plymouth, through the state there. And then, your new guy, Ben, was down, using the snow blower at the runway today, so he found us down there, did a nice job, so. Told him to keep up the good work and.
I heard that he's doing a good job.
Yep, yeah.
Learning, but doing a good job.
He didn't fall in front of my hangar, but that's all right. That's all I got.
Okay, all right, thanks, Bud. Okay, well, any questions regarding the Airport Commission report? Okay. Grievance Committee, 8.7.
There was 2 meetings, the first one on February 25th, and you can see what we discussed there. Out of that first meeting, we recommended that the city take a look at Article 10, Step 1 of the employee contract before we did anything else. The first thing that we had talked about, and I had sent that update to, or I had actually had Terry send it to all the council members, that although there's no requirement to have any official steps, we're recommending that, and that's later on the agenda, the official steps for grievance meetings, which deal with hearing grievances, be adopted for us. That way every grievance is treated equally and nothing is overlooked. Without a written kind of steps to go by, you could easily misstep and do something that you forget to give somebody an opportunity. So that was that meeting. And then there was a meeting on March 5th in which we actually did listen to the grievance. It was a completely professional meeting. There is video of that meeting. If the city wishes to post it, they can. Otherwise, I will give it to others to post. I don't know how. There was no rushing or anything. We were actually reconvening on the 14th to finish giving the parties involved, and there are only 2 parties involved, to have their say before submit information. And then we will continue that grievance from there. But if there's a question about the meeting, I would suggest the city post it. The video is quite clear.
Okay, quite clear, and the city attorney had made a declaration that the grievance committee could be opened.
For that meeting, correct.
Yeah, and and I can disclose that I was there, but I kept my my lips zipped the whole time, so that we didn't have any issues with quorum. Is there anything that is outstanding, a reply from me or anyone else regarding the grievance, or is a response to be coming from you? And do you need anything from me?
There are 2 involved individuals in that grievance. One of them being the city of Tower, which there are 5 members. As of yet, the city of Tower has submitted nothing orally or in writing to disagree with the grievance. That is where it lies. So the 14th, we are reconvening to finish that step of hearing people's sides and looking at submitted evidence that would be contrary, show that the grievance is not correct. If the city wishes to submit something, or the individuals, because there's 5 individuals involved, so that would be the opportunity to do that. Which is why I had actually asked for all the council members to be at that meeting in case there was any questions that need to be asked of the individuals.
I can't speak for the other 4 councilors at the table here, but I didn't realize, it sort of went over my head, or I missed it, that we were all invited to be at that meeting. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, did that not get? Yeah, I'd asked the deputy clerk to send a notice to all the 5 members of the council, asking to be at that grievance committee meeting, being that all 5 members, as the city of Tower, are involved in the grievance, and the other party being involved in the clerk treasurer.
Okay, can I ask, was that understood by the other members?
I'm on the committee, so.
Yeah, you're on the committee, of course.
I think Brooke was also on the committee.
Okay. And just for the record, I did reply in 2 official letters, one to the law firm of the Teamsters Union 320, and I sent a letter reply to Mr. School.
Those were given to me. I asked for any relevant information to that grievance, and those letters were provided to the 3 grievance committee members. So we have that, but we
excuse me, but you're still waiting for a further reply from us?
Yes, that we if somebody's going to show up or submit something, they need to do that by the 14th. We have a time frame. We have to make a decision and have that in writing by the 19th. And there's a weekend in between there, so that's why we're reconvening on the 14th.
Well, I have a response prepared, and I can pass that on to either the clerk treasurer or the deputy clerk, and have them pass it on to the committee.
I would suggest working through the deputy clerk, as is the 6 people that normally are on the table.
Understood. So I will do that. Okay, any questions regarding grievance committee? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept the reports from officers, engineers, commissions, and committees.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Unfinished business, number 9.1, grievance policy. Linda?
There's a copy of the policy in the packet. This is what Steve was looking for. These are some guidance and stuff to make sure that everything is covered. And I think these are handed in. This is the first one. And I think we got everything what we create normal.
Should have something in, if we want to modify it later, we can.
Oh, yeah, you could change that. This would just assure that every grievance is treated equal.
When was this handed out?
At the March or February 25th meeting.
Okay, was it in the packet? Do you recall receiving it?
I don't recall.
What packet?
Kevin, do you recall receiving this?
Oh, no, the February 25th grievance committee meeting.
That meeting was that,
Okay.
That's where we asked to send it to the council, for the council to approve.
Okay. But I haven't seen this come through. Has it been sent?
These were sent out, right? Can you send these out too?
If you want, somebody wants to read it, look at it.
Quite frankly, I haven't seen this before, so
These ones? Not these actions to deal with the workplace grievance?
I haven't had a chance.
you know what?
Maybe we should table it.
Yeah, we need to table that because I didn't intend to read this well. We've got to.
As I said, there's no law saying we have to have these steps written down. It would just be nice
They
to
were
go have
forwarded
a
to.
guideline.
Hmm?
They were forwarded to you from Steve through Terry about 2 weeks ago.
To all the council members?
She don't remember that, she don't remember seeing those.
I'll go back and see.
Okay, we got it now and we can move on. We'll,
Sorry,
if you want to read, we'll just table this and then tell them that that's what they want, so they have a chance to look at them.
Okay.
Or add something, whatever, you know, go ahead.
So the grievance policy then shall be tabled until the next meeting. Okay, Robert's rules, do we need to have a motion? I think we need to have a motion. Everyone agrees, okay, it's consensus, we'll table that until the second meeting of March. 9.2, Board of Appeal and Equalization.
At the last meeting, I mentioned to you that the Board of Appeal was scheduled for 5-7 from 4 to 5, and that presented problems for quite a few of your schedules. They have now moved it back to 6 to 7.
That's good, better.
I don't think we're going to go
For
anywhere.
people too.
Yeah, I don't know how they thought work people would get people. Some of them are in the middle of the day, so I guess it's up to you to take time off, or, like, so Mercury based on May 7th.
And where do they meet?
Here.
Right here.
Okay. Oh, City Hall, okay. So that's, okay. So that's just informational, there's nothing to make a resolution? No. So number 10, new business, establish temporary data practices officer.
We have a data practices request that's in your packet that involves me and the attorney has said that I should not be going to anything. And normally we would have to go over to my backup, which is Terry, but she wasn't part of the meeting. And then the second person would be the mayor, and he said you should not answer this as well.
That I should not
And
answer?
you should not answer it. It should end up in a member of the council. I don't know who you want to delegate it to, but.
Well, I guess I would delegate it to the acting mayor.
Considering the fact of how anything I say always ends up being treated with suspicion, I would choose a neutral member of the council.
So this person, what would their BDD?
You would just have to answer this request. You wouldn't have to, any other request that doesn't involve me, you could go there to
So
yourself.
if you, somebody wanted that public data, this person would come in, after that data, make copies of order to those people.
Right.
Okay. So if you can't be involved, how does one go about looking for that data, or is that okay that like Terry or somebody?
I think we're gonna have to assist you, but when you
Could
push
be-
it out, you're putting your,
Or John Hancock?
that you agree to the,
Okay.
the data. Are you volunteering?
Well, looks like it's gonna be me, huh?
I'm sure that you can get guidance from LMC.
Yeah, I guess you can make me the thing, and then if I need some questions asked, I will expect help from that.
Thank you, Steve.
Just that one word.
Yeah, well, I don't like sticking on people and either.
I
Yeah, remember that.
I will.
So do we have any?
Okay, so,
Yeah, so if you can come up when you have time,
Okay.
we'll go over the card request.
you you want a separate motion on that, or are we okay with it?
We should make one to do our
Okay,
establishment.
is there a motion that the temporary data practices officer is Steve Abramson?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
It's just temporary.
Passed. Okay. The Lancia Enterprises heated building pay estimate, new rate.
We have a pay estimate in your packet for $86,125. I believe SEH has looked this over and given their salary approval to.
Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. TNT aggregates pay estimate number 4.
Their pay estimate that's in your packet is for $39,900. This would be for the church.
And what is that for? Is that for the project out there?
Yep, they're just about down to the end of their money, so I don't know what the plan is, but that's where we're at.
Now, this isn't one that SCH is oversight seeing, so did their
They're-
person
yeah.
say yes?
Yeah, they have, I looked them over,
Oh, this is the,
the toll church,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Cultural center.
So we're just the financial agent on this one.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second time.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.4, public input policy.
At the last meeting, Rachel asked that I prepare a public input policy. I think, it's kind of going with the spirit of everything that you guys had sort of mentioned that night. And tonight. You want to take it home and read it?
Yeah, I'd like to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Good.
Okay. Hmm?
So I will dial it ahead till 3:25.
Okay, great. 10.5, part-time maintenance worker wage rate.
Yes, I would like to increase the wage rate for our night maintenance worker. He currently makes $11 an hour, and I'd like to move it up to $11.50. He's been on 11 for 2 years straight now. We've given him some increased work. We haven't had any issues with attendance or anything with him as an employee at all, so I think it's a
Is the rate increase, is that based on anything like cost of living, or is it?
No, it was based on cost of living, which we actually get more than that. It's just, it's been stagnant, we're looking at it, it's been a hard winter for everybody. We are stuck in our contracts where we're at, but it seemed like he was sort of forgotten, and so I think the consensus of the group, for me, is myself, was that it was time to look at it.
Part-time, what does part-time mean? How many hours per week or per month?
It varies. He gets a lot of hours this winter with all the snow that we've had. When mowing season hits, you'll see him out on the mower. Sometimes a lot, depending on how rainy it is, depending on how
Is
dry
he
it
the one
is.
that does the snow blower thing on the sidewalks too?
Yep, he does do that as well. A couple of, Dave and Tom jump in there too, but, and he does it as well.
The current rate was what?
11,
Oh, okay.
So it's basically going up,
50 cents. We do have room in the budget under his pay lines. That's not an issue.
Good. Is that, part-time, that varies from year to year, depending on dryness and snow and all that.
And he's been very conscientious for his hours compared to a couple of the other people we've had in the past. Seeing their hours were a lot higher, so.
And then a part-time worker has to stay under a certain amount of hours.
Yeah, I don't think on average, I want to say, I feel like we just calculated this was about 21 hours a
Oh,
week.
okay. I know there's a, that is careful with that.
So we're looking at $10.50 a week increase.
Something like that.
Yeah, I have no problem with the wage increase. I just want to make sure that it's a fair increase. How long has it been since there's been an increase?
2 years.
That helps
He doesn't-
track people, the group things.
He sort of gets forgotten about because he's not a contract employee, and he doesn't come up on any of the other schedules. So we kind of look him over, but we just sit him down after the long winter, look him over, and trying to, kind of look at our staff and look in
Now,
this.
is that a recommendation that comes from you, Linda, or do you have is it like employee relations or?
That's
another-
coming from me and from the maintenance team.
Uh,
I should say the former team, because Dave is no longer here with us, but.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're not shortchanging, it's been 2 years, but if.
I'm sure he'd love more, but budget-wise, I don't think he's comfortable with it.
Okay, so is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? You want to read the motion?
The motion would be to change the part-time maintenance worker wage rate from 11 to 11.50 per hour.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That was an aye. Okay, 10.6, 2018 fund balance transfers.
After every audit, the auditor and I sit down and we look at kind of where we are with the typical funds, most respectively the general fund and then our unfunded debt. I've given you two options. I kind of gave you 2016 and 2017 so you can see since you're all separate headed at how we do this. So you can see what we did in 16 and 17, and then I've given you two proposals for 18. And one would be to pay off the North Second, North Third Water Sewer project, and very little on the other two projects. And then the other one would actually be to pay off the Main Street, which is the newer of the debts, but a small, and then kind of take the chunk out of each of the other ones. So in 17 or 16, I mean, you can see that we transferred out 40,000, we split that. We actually put 10,000 back in the Hoover. The fund had gone negative at the time, so we put 10 back in, and then 15 towards those two unfunded debt projects. In 17, we were only able to pull 20 from the general fund, and as you can see, we put 18 towards the one project, and then 2 towards the other. And then on the bottom, I'm not sure entirely how much you want to pull out of the general fund. You want to go to 125 or the 100. The North Second, North Third is the oldest of the three debts.
So, just to get this straight, maybe the others here are ahead of me, but for 2019, the general fund that we're talking about, that's available, is how much?
For the end of 2018, it's $189,038.46.
Okay, and are you making a recommendation?
Yes, well, I'm giving you two recommendations, and I guess.
Option A and option B.
Right.
Okay, so does this mean 2019 fund balance transfers?
No,
Okay,
those are 2018 that we just finished, 2018.
okay.
So then is this something that the auditor helps to explore, or it's something that,
They can't have any input into this.
right, okay.
They make recommendations, that's the one you have questions for, they'll tell you, well, we think we should do this or do that, kind of thing, so.
Are there pros and cons to each of these that you kind of see?
Well, on your option A, you are taking more out of the general fund, you're reducing it down to a small balance. Although you do have unfunded debt, so I guess you're paying for it in a way anyway. the auditors, the one thing they will tell you is that you need to make an attempt to do something about your unfunded debt. So to just say, we're not gonna do A or B, I don't really think is, they would tell you that. As far as how much to take or what your comfort level is, they won't give you on that. Last year we went down to $1,000. I don't know that, I don't know if I'd go that low again. We made it through just fine, we actually bounced back like extremely well. We went from 1,000 to 189,000, so we came back very strong, but that's an awful lot to take. And it doesn't, I guess if we went down to 1,000 again, we probably would have just short enough to clear out the two debts, and not the harbor debt. We won't be able to clear that out, not my general fund. Both options give you, you're working at it in some capacity.
So it's just a little hard to read, but the end transfers, the number there, the one is 469,182, the other one is 425,462, and those refer to Harbor Unfunded Debt Fund. So there's three lines there that describe what that 425 or that 469 is.
The 425, 469 would be prior to year end, or at that year end, any transfers. So if you took the 31217 in option A, then you reduce the harbor unfunded debt to 468,870. If you went with option B, well, see, I had a mistake there. It should be 469,182.35 minus the 18,000.
So the 425,
It's not correct, it should be 469, or 182.35.
okay, so the, tell me exactly how this works now. So we're looking at doing fund balance transfers, and the money comes out of the general fund. So the general fund is cash in the bank. Checking account?
No, the general fund is your general fund. I don't know how to explain. You have your general fund, which for the city of Tower is everything but crew operations, the airport operations. The ambulance is its own fund. Your general fund is your city staff, your city hall, your city clerk's office. The fire department is a general fund, cemetery, depot, civic center, garbage.
But does that refer to cash on hand?
No, it has nothing to do with cash. Your general fund is a fund of your city's funds. I think we have about 14 different funds between debt and our unfunded debt, and then our active funds. You wouldn't transfer all of your airport fund to your unfunded debt because it doesn't. This is an airport debt. If we had airport debt, then I would recommend that. But this is just all of your general.
So what is the purpose of doing the fund balance transfer?
Yeah, you're trying to reduce your debt.
Okay, and so this is from kind of leftover from the 2018 budget and.
And from other years, this is built up over time.
Okay.
Yeah, the harbor, I know a bulk of it came in just probably, had we just been taken over as clerks, so probably I guess 2013, 2012, there was a payback of 275,000 that everybody sort of had forgot about, so that increased the debt greatly. And then the second north, third projects were done in 2010, 11, and somewhat finished in 12. So that's how old that is. And then the Main Street project was done in 2015.
But this is essentially, this is a transfer of internal funds.
Right.
Okay, so the, 425, 469, 182, 35, minus the 18,000. So the 18,000 is the cash on hand. So the transfer of funds would go to pay off, for example, this was the second slash North Third Street water sewer project. That's 124,000, and the transfer would be in option B, 106,370.69.
No, that's what if you, in option B, if you took $100,000 out of the general fund and you split it across those three unfunded debts, I'm saying you could wipe away the Main Street project in its entirety, excuse me, and then add an equal share to the other two unfunded debt funds, which would give you about 18,000 I have there. So then, after those transfers were made, you would have $89,000 in your general fund. Your harbor debt would be $450,000 and some change. Your North Second, North Third would be 106 and some change, and you would no longer be carrying any Main Street sewer debt. If you went with option A, you would have only $64,000 in your general fund. You would have $468,000 and change on your harbor unfunded debt. You would have no North Second and North Third water sewer debt anymore, and you would still be carrying $63,000 on your Main Street.
I don't want to sound obtuse, but is the original loan that is being paid, or the debt that's being paid back, that came internal, from somewhere internal to the city? Yeah.
That could have been for
Or was that a
bonds, it could have
bond?
been,
This would have been project overruns, that we did not have a funding source to pay for.
So the money originally then came from where?
Out of the general fund. We've been flowing a loan to the water sewer fund this whole time.
Okay. Okay. And do you have a recommendation for between option A and option B? Maybe I should first ask if there's any other questions about the two options and a preference. Kevin?
Well, and Linda asked me a little bit about this earlier last week, and I kind of said, we want to try to eliminate at least one of these off the books so that it's one less debt fund sitting there. So instead of 3, we make it down to 2 either way. So I was kind of in favor of option A because it gets a bigger piece of the debt off. Really, the only trade-off here is whether or not you want an extra $25,000 to go towards paying down debt or $25,000 staying in the fund.
just in case.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is there going to be another Main Street sewer break? Is there going to be another?
Right.
So you're really kind of
That
guessing
happens.
what kind of year do you think we're going to have in 2019? It's really the
Yeah,
thing.
it's gonna-
But I was kind of in favor of option A because it's better for us to pay down things as much as we can.
There would be less left for, major issues.
By 25,000.
Yeah.
Is there a cash flow, do you have a cash flow forecast for where we are today and what the cash flow is going to be over, say, the next 6 months?
Here's one of the
No forecast.
sewer lines.
The hard part, the thing I can speak to on that is that you have your budgeting, which is what you estimate you're going to spend in a year, but it's still just an estimate. And so until the end of the year, you really don't truly know where you're at until your audited amounts come in. And so this is why there is this amount in there, is because once you finally crunch everything down and the auditors go, okay, well, this is how much you have in this, and this is how much you have in this, and so on and so on, you don't truly know off of a budget. You got a rough idea, you can be within the ballpark, but that audited number is really kind of the actual, and it does take a couple of months to get that because, obviously it's March. So, at least in that regard, there's our budget for 2019, which has all the things that we have expected, what we think is going to happen. And then there's that, was it 50,000? 50,000 was contingency issue. So there was 50,000 contingency already built into the budget this year that we've already started spending some things on. So right now in the budget, there's about 40 and change approximately, that is still sitting there in case like a sewer break happens or a, one of those unforeseeable things. Now, if we were to exceed that, then we would have to start wondering about the balance of, because then that would start going into that 64 or annuity portion. So really, it does come down to the question of what kind of year you think we're going to have. Do you think there's going to be something where we have a lot of emergencies happen that were unforeseen, or not?
I guess historically, kind of the frost and the way that everything's moving this year, it's like, boy, those tended to be the years where we had a lot of issues. Water line, especially on Main Street at one time, that's always been pounded down, so, I don't know.
Well, I would say,
Replaced all the water lines, so, but it's, just one of those.
I'm always for, chipping away at a debt, and if you get it out of the way, then you have one less to worry about. But at the same time, I kind of hear what you're saying, Steve, that I probably lean toward the conservative end and make sure that we're not shorted at some point here in the spring.
Can you apply that? Not forgetting, say we, when we have a little extra money, and towards the end of the year, you feel you're gonna get through your, can you allocate that money towards it actually?
That's kind of where we're at now.
The most you do is,
Yeah, I did.
That is this meeting.
Yeah, okay.
you have to wait till 19, or
Okay.
till 20.
I don't have to go,
So if you kind of think of all the different budget lines in a budget, as you go through the year, you got utilities and all the other stuff. When you hit the end of the year, that's when anything that's left over filters down to, and that's this, that's what, that 180, what would you say, 180?
189.
You you foresee anything like that, or?
If I had a crystal ball.
Yeah, well, I know, I just, no one knows for sure, but it's just,
I guess
with you, I'm getting the debt down.
I guess if I were one of you, I'd go with the 100 because there's no crime in going a little conservative. I don't see how you could ever be burned by that. Whereas the other way, you guys can be quite so cautious, but you could end up in a problem.
What are the large expenses that are coming up that we do know of?
We have the Pine Street Albert project, the ambulance that George Alberg is purchasing.
The ambulance fund, is that funding set aside? Is there?
Well, that's where it gets complicated. There's subsidy money that is specifically set aside for purchasing ambulances. That is roughly 153,000 or something like that. I don't remember the exact, it's around that number somewhere.
Does that include the 140, or is there 140 for the insurance for the building?
No, that can only be spent on a new structure. So the difference for the ambulance has to come out of the ambulance fund. The unfunded debt that you see on the paper has also much of that being covered by the ambulance fund. The money had to come from somewhere, you asked earlier. That's where it came from. The ambulance has been covering it. So it is a little bit.
So the ambulance fund now, the actual cash, I mean, the fund balance is higher than 800 something, 889 or something. But the actual cash
would not actually, it's there on paper, but it has actually had to be, some of it physically spent to cover this unfunded debt. This is what I was warning about before.
Kind of like a zero interest loan.
Exactly. It's a benefit to the city to be able to have that, but at some point you have to start paying it back, otherwise you're going to bankrupt both funds.
How are we going to pay it back?
Kind of like what I think what you're doing right now with all these funds, that you knock them down every year with, if you have available funds, and then that's why, like, the decision that we're being asked to make.
So some of this, this 100,000 or whatever it turns out to be, is some of that going back to the ambulance fund then, so that we have what we need for the ambulance when it comes in, or?
In a roundabout, yes.
The money doesn't physically get moved. It's there on paper, so as long as you have the money to cover it, it would be subtracted from the ambulance fund. But it's not like there's actually separate drawers of money. It's separated on paper.
I'm pretty sure your auditors are gonna tell you that you're on a crossroad with the Harper project and you're gonna have to look at levying to take care of the debt there. There is no way that the general fund is gonna clear $469,000 debt. And in our initial talks that we had, it's pretty much their consensus that raising the levy to cover that debt, or at least earmarking some levy increase driving towards that.
So well, that's the largest fund, the Harvard debt. Is that, do you have, let's see, in 2016, it was 391, then it went to 425, and now it's 469. Is that, am I getting that right? Okay. So in the last year, then it went up 45,000. Okay. This is something that you need a decision on tonight because the information needs to go to the auditors. I go with the conservative route. Is my suggestion. Are there other comments?
I would go with Linda on that, see that conservative one was, so I would agree with, I think that, I'm just more comfortable with that. This, things happen. Yes.
I am very conservative.
I can go with either option. I felt that 64,000 was enough to cover on top of the 50 that we were counting there, but I could really do either of these.
Either one is, I it's good to reduce and then, you need a motion, make a motion to do option B.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? This one quick question. When do we expect the auditors to actually do a report to?
They come out anywhere, I was looking back, between the April and June meetings. Kind of depends on when they
So
get their
late
stuff
April?
done. I don't want to commit for them. This is their busy season, and Devin was working Saturday and called me at 8 o'clock, so I don't want to keep
Somewhere
him.
between April and June, it's normal.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it carries unanimously. Linda, could you read the motion just so we're all clear?
Yes, the motion would be to transfer $18,304.99 from the general fund to the harbor fund. Fund 215 would be transferring $18,304.98 to Fund 203, the North Second, North Third, and transferring $63,390.03 to Fund 202, the Main Street project.
And that's going to leave us with funds to cash flows through the next.
It would leave you with $89,038.46.
What is the so-called net per month, approximately, general expense?
What?
General expense that we need?
What are our expenses per month?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
For which fund are you talking about? General fund?
Cash fund to cash flow that we need to operate the city.
I don't know what kind of bills you would have. And,
Okay, so we don't have an average here.
no.
Yeah, I think I think that you I think that we need to have staff actually do a cash flow projection so that we can review that from month to month and have a more solid picture of how we're doing financially month to month. But that can come back as a separate motion. I hate to ask this, but did we vote?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Okay. All right. 10.7, DRX lease.
The DRX lease expired as of 12/31. We would need to negotiate a new lease. I don't have any changes that I'm aware of that need to be made other than the term. You said extending it for another 5 years.
The monthly rent is 500.
Correct.
Is that any kind of market rate?
I don't know how the rate was established. I know we raised with that last contract period
How long has it been at that?
since January 1st, 2014.
And then what we're, the lease agreement here, are we looking at five-year term?
Yes, unless there's some reason not to, but
So the rent then would remain at 500 for another 5 years?
unless you guys vote differently. It's not my vote.
Under section 19, it states Lesser shall have the right to increase the rental to be paid by lessee commencing on January 1st, 2018. Do you know what it was last year that was in there?
I think that was before the contract expired.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what it's going to say.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what rent prices really are in here, but it seems like for a thriving business, $500 is really reasonable. Is there any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have some.
I'll just, you know, that's probably not a bad market rate rent, no matter where you are, it's hard to, and several properties that have tried to rent over the years, and it was difficult to get anyone to pay much more than that, just because it's, especially, you know, Dave's a long-term guy, but to get anyone else to try to rent now, it's been really difficult, because most of the time, you know, the property owners want way more than that, so that's why some of the storefronts are empty. I just wanted to say, you know, I rented the building you're in, Mayor, I rented that for $550, you know, a month, and it's an entire building on itself. That's the best I could do. You know, the building now, so I don't feel that number is unreasonable based on market conditions in the tower.
You want to buy it back and we can rent it from again?
Increased rent twice a month.
But perhaps, you know.
But I'm just saying, in order to try to keep some activity on the main street, and
I was just going to support that, in the spirit of supporting local business, that,
we've got to be
We wanna be
fair, and I feel that's a reason, I feel it's a reasonable market,
Okay.
based on what I know, what happens in Virginia, in Ely, and in Tower, you know, that's, so.
Well, no, you're knowledgeable enough.
I'm just, my comment about.
You know, I'm going to, you raised your hand.
Well, I was just, to expound on what Steve was talking about. You know, my family's been here for 32 years. We've paid in excess of $1.5 million to local employees in the area. All 5 of my bartenders live in Tower Sedan. We've donated somewhere between $80,000–$85,000 to local charities in those years. Property taxes in those years have, the city benefits by the property tax we pay at $2,500 a year or whatever it is. And I would just urge you to try to keep it at the 500. We just finished our year. I was just with the accountants this past week. We had the worst year we've ever had, $338,000 gross sales. 8 years ago, we were just under 500,000. No, 482,000 we were at. So, obviously going out drinking isn't the deal. Now with the off-sale liquor store, it surprisingly still did $180,000. With the new Super One opening, you know, people look and say, why would I buy a Mega Captain downstairs for $26.99 when I can drive to Virginia, get my groceries, and pay 21 something for the same bottle? It just, you know, it's getting tougher and tougher. We lost, when the ledge was put in, the liquor store, however many years ago that was, we lost 38% of our business. That was the biggest chunk. But then, we've had a couple of tough years with locals getting DUIs and whatnot, and don't ever, I have a master's in public safety. I would never advocate the wild, wild west people drinking and driving. I'm not saying that. I don't drink, I've been sober 31 years, and I like to see people drink responsibly. But as Steve was alluding to, we're a long-term business. We're loyal to Tower, and I would just hope you would take into consideration how long we've been here.
Oh, yeah, well, two things. One is after the Tower Sudan hockey match, I was invited to come over there and had a good time. A few people bought me a beer, and that hasn't happened for a long time. So I really appreciated that, and I think everyone knows that both my wife and I are serious supporters of Buy Local, and that's what we want to see in all of Main Street here. So you know, your comments are well taken, well accepted.
One other comment, just for the council to know that no matter what we do, we need to base it on some market rate. We have to give people credit, but based on my knowledge of the real estate around here, that's still a reasonable rate. Yeah. So, but I'm just trying to make sure everyone realizes that we gotta, you know, if Tower was hot and rents were flying off the handle, then obviously we would have to do something about that. So. In this case, we see the storefront, so.
Yeah, and I have, I have some due diligence kind of questions to ask as well, so. Is there, and are there any other, well, first of all, is there a motion to accept? By the way, Linda, this is your recommendation, or is it just up to the council?
It's just up to the council.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept?
I would make this motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, 10.8, Pine Street realignment proposal.
At our planning and zoning meeting, we're doing a project that starts here at 169 City Hall would be here. We received some MINDOT funding, so this would be adding curb and gutter here. You see the sidewalk, curb and gutter there. It would choke off this entrance so you don't have the speed demon route through here. Create some additional parking at the same grade as the civic center entry, so you're not going down the hill, and if you're not sure on your feet, that can be problematic. It squares off this alley to where it's actually plugged to be, so this becomes grass, and the alley is moved a little bit. This would be a tie-in to South Second. This driveway here, where you could come right here right now, you will not, if it stopped right there. If you want to access the new park, you have to drive around, you can able to take your car like this if you can. This would also then connect you to the new bridge. This is a beautiful bridge that's on the picture now. You'll connect it to the new bridge abutment. And
Property owner, this one?
yeah, like they're gonna come up and look at
okay.
exact locations with me, but they would both like to retain their driveways on the Pine Street.
This one makes sense for sure.
Yeah, he's got an overhead door right here, so.
That was a big mess, so.
What is this?
That was the ski trailer? No.
That's a kiosk, snowmobile, kiosk, whatever you wanna call it.
So the iron ore bar is.
That way, over the bridge.
Oh, okay. Oh, of course, of course.
You can see the outline of the new bridge.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
with the sidewalks when they come in.
Yeah, I was just a little disappointed. I was thinking this was bench form is over here, but I understand. It is.
Planning and zoning looked at this in our last meeting, and we were okay with the changes. Yeah, the only thing that came up was making sure that this is divided enough that somebody doesn't think that they can just go right over the curb. But other than that, everything else was, because we have that issue down by Benchworks where people think the highway and the road connect together. So that was the only thing that we were worried about there.
Okay. And so we're looking, is there a,
So we're looking for your approval on that layout, and once you approve it, then I'll send it to Matt Wolf and get him to sign that to me after their final approval.
I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, the last item is 10.9, the one that I added to the agenda. And the reason, it'll be clear, I think, when I explain why I think this was important to bring up now. And I apologize, I don't have a handout. I was having head problems and computer problems today. What I have here is first of all, I want to make this very clear to media and everyone here at the table that there is no allegation or accusation whatsoever here. I simply don't know what's happening, but I find this very troubling that it's occurring. And it's been occurring since I first started using City of Tower email. I noticed very early on when I started using the email that email that had been opened and read was disappearing. I thought that was odd. I don't know exactly how that could happen. But then I began noticing that email would come into my computer, and you can tell by the highlighting and the blue dot, I use Outlook, that the email is on red. And I wouldn't get to it right away, but as I was watching it, suddenly the email would open, and the blue dot would go away, and it was obviously being read. I contacted, I use a Mac, and I contacted AppleCare to ask how this could be happening. Is there anything in my settings that could be causing email to automatically open? I made my settings so that I had to double click on any email that came in to make sure that I wasn't accidentally opening it. So you really have to do a double click to make the email open. And so the AppleCare person, the tech support person, asked me to start screen recording each time an email came in. And what I have here is a number of screen recordings on my computer where I've watched email come in, and anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes after the email comes in, without me touching my computer, it suddenly is opened up and being read. And the Apple Care person said, there's just no question. We went through my computer and all of the devices. The only other device where this email comes in is my phone, and I make a point of never opening any of my City of Tower email on my phone. What I need to do is have permission from the council to contact the administrator of the email account system. This is TechBytes, and get a listing of the access. I can give the times that the email came in and the times they were opened. And what I need to have is the IP addresses to see who is opening this email. I contacted the League of Minnesota Cities, and the League of Minnesota Cities said that they would send me a statute, and they sent me a statute which says that that email, even city email, is private until requested to be opened, and I have gotten no request whatsoever for any email to be opened or to be read by anyone else. So I need to have the TechBytes person give me the access logs for the times that this email has been opened, and to see what IP addresses besides mine have gone into that account. I've recorded both on my phone, and I've recorded with screen recordings, and it's quite clear, specifically from the AppleCare tech support expert that I talked to, that my email is being opened and read. And I don't, as I say, I'm not making any accusations. I don't know exactly how this could happen, but I need to find out because there's a statute that says this is illegal, and I would want to know who is opening the email, reading the email, and also anyone else that may have knowledge of this happening, because this is something that would be prosecutable. So it's a very serious matter, and I would like to make a motion that the access reports for the email on my account be given to me so that I can check out the IP addresses to find out where it's coming from. And that's the motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of getting these access reports from our TechBytes tech person, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Unanimous. And Linda, then I would need to have the access information for the TechBytes technician, and so that I would like to visit with him, actually visit him. Okay. That passed unanimously. Moving on to number 11, presentation of claims. Is there a motion to sign the bills? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? My hand's ready for it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mine was an aye, so it's unanimous. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:30.